Hey, hey, hey. Happy Wednesday. Come on in. Pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch. Welcome aboard! Tonight is Wednesday, October 4th, 2023. This is live stream 973. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out, super casual around here. We are certainly not engaged in rocket surgery by any stretch of the imagination. No, we're just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news, and either taking a first look at a game, or I share a review of a game. Well, tonight we are going to actually unbox and dive on into High Treason, the Trial of Louis Riel from Victory Point Games, which is a division of Tabletop Tycoon. And yes, this is the third edition of the game. We are going to dive on in and take a first look. I'll be very honest, even though I covered a lot of Victory Point game titles way back in the day, I've never actually checked this out. Well, yes. So this is brand new to me, and I know very little about Louis Riel outside of, I know he was Canadian, he was, part Manitoba Indian? I don't know what that tribe was. The Manti? Wasn't that it? I don't know. And some people think he was a great man who was a visionary for Canada, and others think he was an insane madman. So we are going to be diving on in. It is, I guess, Legalese Wednesday, because last Wednesday we took a look at Lawyer Up from Manor Games. So back-to-back Wednesdays with legal games in it. It's pretty sweet, pretty exciting. Anyway, if you are tuning in because you want to check out the live first look, do want to let you know that we tackled the tabletop gaming news first around here. So it's probably going to be about 45 minutes is my guess before we jump on into that unboxing. Maybe even a little bit more than that, because I am actually heavy on Kickstarters with the news pieces tonight. So we also have some videos. So it could be 45, 50 minutes. So if you are tuning in for the live first look, just relax, kick back, put your feet up. It's Wednesday. Happy hump day. Now, if you are tuning in 30 minutes or more after the show has ended, there will be timestamps. I know I always say show notes. There will be show notes, which don't do anything. Don't help you at all. Well, sure they do. I mean, they tell you the web address if you're interested in the game that I was doing a first look or review of. But anyway, there will be timestamps. So if you're the impatient type and you really just got to get to that first look, you'll be able to do so by using those timestamps. You'll be able to jump past the tabletop gaming news of the day. Although I got a lot of cool news, I always do. So, depending on the device you might be watching this on, those timestamps, not the show notes, the timestamps, could be right there in the timeline of the video. All depends on the device. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com For all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you will not find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Lastly, because this is a live show, there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. And you must be a subscriber for at least 48 hours before you can take part in chat. Yet another way I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you want to say howdy, maybe you've got a question, a comment, maybe there's something about high treason you want to get a closer look at, by all means, chime in. I will do my best to respond. First out the gate tonight is the Motor City Madman himself. Not Ted Nugent. No, our friend, the Madman from the Detroit area, who also happens to be one of our chat moderators. He is with us, as is Kevin R. Smith, Roger Perdome, Shaz is in the house, as is Kathy Evans and Marius Smith. And I would take a wild guess that we probably have our second, but number one in your hearts, chat moderator with us tonight, and that would be Sarah D. So howdy, everybody. Welcome aboard. Kevin R. Smith says it's the half end of an era today. Random House's distribution deal with Wizards of the Coast expires at the end of the year. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, I will tell you about the goings on with Wizards of the Coast after the news. Something smells super fishy. We'll discuss. I'm not going to go into a whole ton of detail about it, but I don't know, folks. It's starting to get to the point where I'm pretty much probably done. I am probably done covering Dungeons and Dragons. We'll talk a little bit about it. It's not set in stone, but something smells funky about what's going on, at least with this outlet. Anywho, Roger Perdome points out it is the French-Canadian Métis, I'm sure I mispronounced that, was the tribe that Louis Riel was, I think it was his father. Like I said, I don't really know much about it. I'm going to learn more about it as we take a look at High Treason, though. So let's jump on into the news, because I've got a nice eclectic mix, and as I mentioned before, kind of heavy on the Kickstarters tonight. First off, 2 new expansions for Merchants of Magic are now up on Kickstarter. For Manor Games, here's the scoop. Merchants of Magic is a 1 to 8 player crunchy roll and write game that plays in 30 to 45 minutes. In the game, you take on the role of a magical merchant competing to earn the most coin by crafting items and researching spells to create magically enhanced items that you can sell to the mighty adventurers defending the realm. In the base game, 4 polyhedral dice are rolled each round. Then each player selects 2 of these dice to craft items or research enchantments for their shop. This action is taken simultaneously, so there is little to no downtime. Customers travel from shop to shop, so you'll need to stock the exact combination of item and enchantment on the order cards in front of you. If a shop can't sell an item a customer needs in a timely manner, they will become impatient. The customer, that is, not the item. And visit the competitor next door. As I mentioned, 2 brand new expansions. In the Dangerous Business expansion, monsters are at the gates, and each merchant is hoping that they can equip their sponsored adventurer with enough items and equipment to fend off the horde of creatures. Dangerous Business replaces sponsored adventurer cards with new adventurer boards. As you craft new items, your adventurer's prowess in battle will increase. Once it meets or exceeds a monster's health, you can defeat the creatures to set up powerful combos. Draft of the Dragons collects several different smaller expansions into one box, adding a ton of variety and intrigue. Draft of the Dragons adds a new phase to the game where players pick an action, brewing more potions, advertising to a central pool of customers, stealing them from your opponents, or grabbing potion recipes that provide powerful new abilities. It also adds new order cards and a push your luck mechanic with order reservations. There is a short Kickstarter video from Manor Games about these two new expansions. So let's take a look.
Welcome, weary traveler. Please step into my shop. You'll find a myriad of items for your adventures here. Weapons, armor, and various accessories, all with personalized enhancements and affiliations, and at great prices, too. No, don't venture to the store next door. I have just the thing for you. Welcome to Merchants of Magic, a crunchy roll-and-write game where you play as merchants seeking to earn the most coin by crafting enchanted items and selling your wares to customers. Each round, you must choose 2 dice results to spend, marking them on your player sheet to craft items and research spells. Customers are fickle and impatient and will move on to the next stop if you don't have what they're looking for. But shopkeeping isn't always so simple. Introducing Dangerous Business and Draft of the Dragons, 2 brand new collections of modular expansions. Monsters are at the gates, and each merchant hopes to equip their sponsored adventurer with enough gear to fend off the incoming horde. As you craft new items, your adventurer's prowess in battle grows. Once your adventurer is powerful enough, you can defeat these creatures, setting up powerful combos. Draft of the Dragons adds a new game phase with additional actions. Brew more potions, advertise to a central pool of customers, steal them from your competitors, or grab potion recipes offering new potent abilities. Are you both a skilled craftsman and a shrewd enough business person to take on this dangerous business? Merchants of Magic, now on Kickstarter.
The Kickstarter for the 2 new Merchants of Magic expansions is fully funded. You can reserve copies of the base game and the expansions together for a $65 pledge, or you can grab both the expansions for a $36 pledge, or you can score either of the expansions for a $19 pledge through October 27th, with an expected delivery of October next year. Now, as far as I understand, Merchants of Magic is part of the Set a Watch series of games. So kind of a like fantasy setting. I got to be honest, I have never played any of those. In fact, it's not until very recently, and of course you just have seen the first look at Lawyer Up as well as a Maximum Apocalypse, which was last night. It's only very recently that I had an opportunity to look at more Manor Games. So I am excited for that. Could be kind of cool. I don't play a lot of roll and writes, mainly because they tend, at least in my opinion, they tend to be either too abstract for my personal tastes or just way too light for my personal taste. Although I will say Dice Kingdoms of Valeria from Daily Magic Games is a pretty good roll and write. I did enjoy that. So, because it had a little bit more going on to it than your traditional roll and writes. And there was a little bit of a Fantasy Kingdom story going on there as well. Flaming Huron and Testy Trekkie are both joining us in chat. Welcome aboard. And I see that Sarah D is with us. So that's very nice to see you. Tessie Trekkie says their only issue with roll and writes is when the pads run out and they don't sell the replacements anymore. That's why you have a scanner. print them off yourself or use your phone to take pictures of them. Although usually a scanner is way sharper and it just, it just looks better than just from a phone shot there. Kevin R. Smith says, I'm shocked anybody wouldn't have replacements for sale just for a continuous revenue stream. Yeah, that would be really weird. Very strange. And there are some roll and writes that I have seen, not that I have played, but I have seen that look like the number of pages for you to play aren't a lot included. So, don't know. On to the next news piece. Fans of the Deadlands setting for Savage Worlds. Oh, did I just hear the madman's ears perk up? Should take note of the return of the Night Train adventure, which is up for crowdfunding. Here's the skinny. Night Train, a legend returns. Deadlands, the original Weird West role-playing game. The name itself conjures scenes of drifters shooting it out with unliving horrors across the dusty plains of the American West. 25 years ago, one famous adventure encapsulated this promise so completely it became legend itself. John Goff's Night Train. The Night Train lurks along the tracks of the West, pulling in after dark to unleash its hellish cargo of starving, feral vampires. Spoiler alert, for crying out loud. On unsuspecting towns along the rails. For decades, Night Train has terrorized tabletops and conventions. What will you do when its deathly whistle blows? Can your posse survive the onslaught? Many others have tried and failed. This Kickstarter brings John Goff's deadly masterpiece back into the light, updated for Savage Worlds Adventure Edition and with gorgeous new art and accessories to bring the fun to unlife. If you've never played this classic and much beloved adventure, this is your chance to jump aboard. If you've ridden the rails before and are brave enough to return, you'll find all new extras that make this the definitive experience. The Night Train 25th Anniversary box set contains a 72-page softcover book with the original Night Train, using the Savage World rules for the first time, its sequel, For Whom the Whistle Blows, and an all-new adventure, The Bank Job, from the master himself, and a special afterword featuring John Goff's notes and convention recollections, celebrating this legendary expedition into the blood-soaked rails of Varney Flats. It also includes maximum quality pawns, illustrated front and back on heavy laminated cardboard and individually die cut to the figure's specific shape. You'll have an army of creepy bloodsuckers, the innocent townfolk they want to feed on, the villains trying to capitalize on the carnage, and the hellish Night Train itself, so its locomotive and cars can roll down the tracks of any Deadlands battle map, or get combined with other train cars as they're added. Includes 2 double-sided fold-out combat maps featuring the 3 rail towns from the adventure, and a connecting spur where a posse could catch up to the train, or where the villains might camp to admire their handiwork. The maps are wet and dry eraser friendly and can be placed side to side to make new towns or extend the rails for even more carnage. There are 6 dangerous new archetypes to send to the slaughter, 10 toe tags to fill in and show off if the posse ends up in Boot Hill, 4 wanted posters. The towns along the rails have plenty going on before the mythical Night Train makes its fateful stops. Law dogs have a chance to collect bounties and see justice catch up to these outlaws, one way or another. There's also a special commemorative wild die featuring a locomotive-themed 6-face for acing. The Kickstarter project funded within its first few minutes. You can reserve a physical copy of the Night Train 25th Anniversary box set, say that 5 times fast, which includes a complimentary copy of a collection of dime novels, absolutely free, You can get these for a $50 pledge, or you can score those in PDF for a $25 pledge through November 2nd. Expected delivery for the digital items are this December, so very quick turnaround on that. And the physical box set and novel are set to arrive next June. The Madman says, Savage Worlds, I've been debating whether to back Night Train. I have so much Deadlands content time already, so I'm not sure yet. Here's my question. Well, I got two questions. And yes, I picked up Deadlands when it originally came out, and I got a lot of the Splat books, and I picked up the dime novels, not all of them, but I did get some of them. And funny enough, I was sort of like, I could do without the fiction. You know, I could do without it. I want the adventure. So, yeah, hey, I'm just being honest, you know. It's kind of like, I'll be the first to point out, I've never been a huge fan of a lot of the flavor fiction that's added to many role-playing games, because honestly, a lot of it's just dog shit. It just really is. I'm not saying this was, I don't remember it. First question. Weren't vampires like a really big surprise of this adventure, though? Because vampires weren't in Savage Worlds originally. Now, we are supposed to be having an opportunity to take a peek at the latest Deadlands that came out. I said Savage Worlds. I should have said Deadlands is the system that did not have the vampires. I thought that was like the big surprise. That was the big twist of the adventure was, oh, look, there are vampires in the Weird West. And here it's all over the art. It's right there on the cover of the book. So I guess that's not a big deal anymore. So I was kind of curious about that. So I don't know. I do not know. So that would be the first question I have. Second question I have is, would you, for an example, the Madman and Tessie Trekkie saying they're both kind of on the fence about backing this on Kickstarter, would you be more apt to back it if you could get only the book, the 72-page adventure book? Because I noticed that's not available. It's PDF or box set. That's it. I'm kind of surprised that Pinnacle Entertainment Group is not offering just the book itself if you don't want the battle maps and the figure flats and things like that. So I'm kind of curious. But there's a little bit of discussion. Marius asks, what kind of system is this? Well, I will allow the Madman to educate you on the system itself, because I have not actually had an opportunity to take a dive into Savage Worlds, which once again, supposedly, according to my contact over at Pinnacle Entertainment Group, they were sending out the Adventure Edition, Deadlands, and something else. And no, not Savage Rifts, because I would not cover that. Remember, I do not cover things from that particular company. And I'm not talking about Pinnacle Entertainment Group. I'm trying to remember what the other thing was that they were going to send out. Oh, Pathfinder for Savage Worlds. So hopefully that is in transit or will be shortly, because I do understand. I think the Savage Worlds Adventure Edition was out of stock. They just got that back. Tessie Trekkie points out, Jeff, I hope they send you Holler. Isn't that relatively new? I remember sharing a news piece of it. I think what they're probably going to see is they're going to see how the coverage is that I provide, and then they can kind of take it from there. Kevin says, I know Savage Pathfinder is awesome, and the system in general is pretty cool. Yeah, you know, I'm kind of curious as far as Pathfinder for Savage Worlds, if it's a lot more accessible than second edition Pathfinder for most players, because I know people out there call it Math Finder, even though it's just as much math in 5e D&D as there is in Pathfinder, just different sorts of math. But I am kind of curious. All right, moving right along. Oh, and as you can see, this is, I am sharing some images from the preview PDF, which I received. All right, on to the next news piece. There's an interesting looking role-playing game from Austrian game company Causa Creations. It's currently up for crowdfunding, and I've got the latest on The Hidden Isle. The Hidden Isle is a pen and paper role-playing game that uses tarot cards instead of dice. Set in the 16th century on the secretive island of Dioscoria. It focuses on role-playing and collaborative storytelling. This is a game about swashbuckling adventures across Europe and the Middle East, stealing forbidden text from oppressive regimes, protecting an island of outcasts using ancient magic, and toppling empires with just the right speech at just the right time. If you're familiar with tarot, then The Hidden Isle will resonate with you all the more, but no experience with tarot is necessary. To help you feel like a mystical oracle and stay inspired, we'll provide you with tables and guides to help you quickly understand each card draw. The game features narrative heavy, rules light. While the game does have rules, their purpose is to enrich and drive your narratives. The game is designed as a collaborative storytelling experience. Play and character growth is intertwined. Each player has a burden, an emotional weight they carry, and an ideal to live up to. Become your truest self or succumb to your worst impulses. It's a vibrant 16th century world. Dioscoria is described in loving detail as our major cities of the time, such as London, Istanbul, and Venice. No historical knowledge is needed. There's a wide array of characters. Play as an illusionist, scoundrel, occultist, prowler, champion, or hunter. More characters are planned as stretch goals. Game masters can plan or improvise. Scenarios can be planned ahead of time by the seer or improvise at the start of a session for game masters short on time. Once again, it uses tarot cards instead of dice. They're used from everything for scenario inspiration, character backstories, divination, and skill checks. No tarot experience, once again, is required. Any deck can be used, but there is the recommendation for the Sephiroth deck. Sephiroth deck, I guess. It's a company that's actually associated with this game. So there is that. There is a short Kickstarter video. So let's take a look. The Kickstarter project for The Hidden Isle is well past the 1,400% funding mark. You can reserve a copy of the hardcover book with PDF for a pledge of approximately $62, or snag just the PDF alone for a pledge of approximately $27 through October 28th, with an expected delivery in June of 2024. Gotta say, this looks very, very interesting. I like the art style. It looks like it would be pretty family friendly. I would just take a stab at. Here's the question that I've got, or maybe I shouldn't say question. Maybe it's just not really a concern. It's just something I'm curious about. As far as with tarot cards, using tarot cards for various aspects of role-playing games, to me, does not seem like it would be very intuitive. That just rolling dice, looking at numbers, and computing whatever you need to in your head, I would think is probably quite a bit easier for a game master than to be using a tarot deck. And then the other thing that I'm kind of curious about is anytime you use a deck of cards for any sort of action resolution, unless you are shuffling those cards every single time you have to use them, then you really don't end up with a true randomness. So I'm just kind of curious. But like I said, this looks really interesting, and it has done extremely well on Kickstarter. So you may want to take a peek. And I do see that there was some discussion of Savage Worlds and a real quick breakdown of how the action resolution works, which, to be honest, I did not have a clue of. I say it all the time. You know, if I don't know about a game, I don't know about a game. I mean, usually I'll know little bits and pieces of things. But yeah, I actually didn't know how the action resolution worked in Savage Worlds. I know how it works in Fate. I know for some strange reason, some people tend to like mix up Fate and Savage Worlds. I don't know why. Fate is just simply the old Fudge role-playing game, kind of modernized, really. So let's move on to the final news piece. Now available in PDF is Cthulhu Awakens from Green Ronin Publishing. I've got the lowdown. Cthulhu Awakens brings cosmic horror and the Cthulhu mythos to Green Ronin's popular age system. This complete role-playing game reimagines and expands the mythos beyond the biases of the original stories, creating a setting designed specifically for role-playing eldritch adventures. Delve into the secrets of the weird century. Follow aliens and cults through wars, the broken atom, the rise of digital and genetic technologies, and the horrors of social media. Contend with Deep One cults, Yithian agents, and terrifying revelations from across the globe and within your dreams. If you've played any age game, Blue Rose, The Expanse, Fantasy Age, or Modern Age, you already know the basics. Cthulhu Awakens customizes the system with the effects of horror and alienation, eldritch workings, psychic powers, strange artifacts, mystic tomes, and more. The game also includes mythos horrors and ready-made NPCs for the game master and 2 complete adventures. All you need are character sheets, 3 six-sided dice, and friends ready for weird stories. In Cthulhu Awakens, anyone can stand against the darkness. You can score the 288-page PDF over at Drive-Thru RPG for $32.95. I agree with Flaming Heron. I think this looks pretty impressive. At least the layout and the art style. But this is another game I've got kind of questions about. So you may be wondering, how come we really don't cover Green Ronin Like, I don't review stuff. Sammy reviewed some of the Expanse releases. And then the PR person from Green Ronin, I don't know, it was weird. We were trying to get on the same page, and they were one of these people who reach out and just can't come out and say what do they want. You know? It was like, well, I'd like to talk about what we could do and blah. And it's like, so what do you want? Do you want to advertise Kickstarters? Do you want reviews of stuff? Well, that's something we'd want to look into. It's like, come on, just tell me, what do you want? I don't even know if that person would still be around. But this looks pretty cool. And I have heard good things about the age system. One of the questions I would have is, are they going to sit there and spend a lot of time ripping on H.P. Lovecraft in this book? Because I kind of get the feeling this would be a company that would do that. Now, hey, I am not sticking up for Howard Phillips Lovecraft in any way, shape, or form. You got to be a pretty serious racist when other established racists of the day tell you you're racist. So, but it's one thing to acknowledge that. So if you have seen recent editions of Call of Cthulhu, it is something that's touched upon and then move on from it, right? Let's admit this gentleman was not somebody you would probably want to sit down and have a meal with or have a drink with. But they did create a pretty amazing sandbox and playground for you to dip your feet into, run around, play in. Just because you enjoy the Cthulhu mythos does not mean you in any way, shape, or form condone the mindset of its author, right? And I know people get pissed off for some reason when I mention this stuff. It's like, yes, okay, H.P. Lovecraft was racist. He was extremely racist for his time. I understand as he got older and closer to death, he did open his mind a bit. Don't know. I can't tell you what was in the guy's heart, But, like I said, Call of Cthulhu, it's mentioned, it's discussed, and move on. That game Lovecraft-esque, which I did a written review of years ago, which is hot trash. All it does is sit there and just continually, just constantly criticize Lovecraft, and you almost feel like you should be ashamed of yourself that you even picked up their fucking book. And they're so busy patting themselves on the back of, how evolved they are. And it's like, well, maybe you should have focused on putting together a good game rather than this steaming pile. You always know you're going to have a problem when a company says, this is the game you've been looking for. It's like, oh, you want a Lovecraft role-playing game? Well, fuck that Call of Cthulhu stuff. This is the game you've been looking for. It's like, no, not at all. Now, I'm not saying that Green Ronin goes to that extent, but I'm kind of curious. I'm kind of curious how they approach it, how they approach that subject. And I think they might, just get the impression they might be a little heavy-handed with it. But this could be a really good game. So I'm not saying. Kevin R. Smith says that a bit of discussion going on. Okay, so Flaming Heron said, this looks so good, not going to lie. I do like the age system, though, and with Cthulhu, it's a no-brainer. Kevin says they backed this Kickstarter. PDFs went out to backers a couple days ago, and they just got around to downloading it today. So Flaming Heron says they do good games. That's so sad. It was just weird. It was just an odd exchange back and forth with their marketing person, and it was finally I was like, let's table this. We can come back to this at a later date. Flaming Heron says he was racist. Never heard that before. Dusty Trekkie says this sounds like it's approaching the mythos from a more science fiction approach than horror approach, like some of the original stories. I don't know if that's the case. I do get the impression that it is supposed to be a 20th century role-playing game. So it is not like focused, say like Call of Cthulhu, focuses on the 20s and into the 30s. Of course, you can use it for any period. But I think this is a far wider or far larger canvas, I guess I'll say, that it's looking to do. But I think it's also looking at trying to do cosmic horror. Kevin says, Kevin R. Smith, I should say, because we usually have a couple of Kevins floating around in chat lately, says that they did. Oh, Kevin says they get the impression that Green Ronin's business acumen is not nearly as good as their game design skills. Well, that's the case with most game companies that aren't owned by some major corporation. Kevin says they started reading the PDF and they do rag on Lovecraft a little bit in the front. Want to see how much of it is throughout the book. That's what I'm curious about. Because it's one thing, if you want to devote like 5 pages to, calling him out, I have no problem with that. It's just when it's like, oh, hey, I thought we're into the adventure portion of this book. It's like, you're bringing this up again? The Madman said, sound the air raid sirens, F-bombs incoming. Yes, those F-bombs did land. So Flaming Heron asks, is our racism better than their racism? No. Dusty Trekkie says, how to handle H.P. Lovecraft. Man was a racist son of a bitch. Don't be like Lovecraft. Don't include racism in your game if it makes your players hurt. Now back to the horror. Kevin says it's possible that Green Ronin includes more material to include non-Western protagonists than core Call of Cthulhu does, which actually isn't a bad thing. No, I agree. That's not. Nero's Fiddle is with us in chat. Says, if I'm going to invest in another game dealing with the mythos, it'll be the new Corhos Cthulhu by Modiphius, Romans versus the Mythos. Yes, please. Yes, and we will have a news piece about that tomorrow. Yes. Just didn't make it into tonight's news because the news broke. It was not in time. So that is it for the news tonight. Of course, I was talking about Drive-Thru RPG. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the Gaming Gang. I just heard a noise upstairs and it distracted me. It's like I heard one of the cats. Like they're play fighting. And I was like, oh. So yes, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. Obviously, it's affiliated with the Gaming Gang. So if you're going to visit Drive-Thru RPG or Dungeon Masters Guild, Storyteller's Vault, what have you, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of those banner ads. And if you happen to make a purchase, I get 5% of that sale. All those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up. Help keep thegaminggang.com around. Of course, if you like this video, if you like this video, if you dig the channel, if you find thegaminggang.com to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, then by all means, visit paypal.me/thegaminggang to make a small donation. That's right. You can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. And a big thank you to the madman who recently stopped by paypal.me/thegaminggang and made a not small donation. Thank you very kindly. And thank you very kindly to all of you out there who use either the banner ads over at gaminggang.com or stop by paypal.me/thegaminggang. All right, so as I mentioned early in the show, I did hear back from Wizards of the Coast. And as I mentioned earlier, things seem fishy. So I'm actually going to share the email that was sent back to me, and then I'll kind of tell you, because I got an email back just as I was coming down to do the show. So I already told you last night, I reached out and I was asking, am I getting a review copy of Planescape? Because there are outlets who are showing that they started sharing coverage of the new slipcase set on September 28th. Then there was somebody yesterday who has a tiny YouTube channel, and not picking on them, but very few subscribers, very few views, and suddenly they've got a first look video where they're sharing the slipcase. Now, of course, I haven't seen hide nor hair of it, and I did not receive an email, which I usually would, saying that it was in transit. And then if you follow the Gaming Gang, you know I had already mentioned that Wizards of the Coast is no longer utilizing this PR company that they had for a couple of years, or even more than that. But I suddenly get an email from the contact at the PR company that they're supposedly not using anymore, giving me a code for D&D Beyond for Planescape, which you were able to access if you had pre-ordered it yesterday. So I was like, what the hell's going on? So send an email. This is what I get back. Howdy, Jeff. Thank you for reaching out about this. We really appreciate you following up and your patience. Our team is coming back from a period out of office. End of September? Wouldn't you be out of office for Gen Con? And is in the process of setting up Planescape mailers. We are currently handling a larger volume of these than usual due to the transition from 360 PR to our internal team. So this process might take a bit longer than usual and look a bit different than it has previously. Communication about mailers will come from this email, so keep an eye out for an email in the coming days with more information about Planescape copies. In regards to the digital code, our team will follow up with XYZ at ABC Company. Thanks for letting us know about this! Exclamation point. Please let us know if you have any questions. We look forward to continuing to work with you. Best, the D&D Creator Relations team. So Marius says Wizards changed buildings recently. That I did not know. I wonder, are they still in Redmond? Because it was funny how many game companies, role-playing game companies, are in Redmond, Washington, which is on the outskirts of Seattle. I had been in Redmond quite a few times when I used to deliver RVs around the country, because I used to deliver from Indiana to Seattle quite often. So, Flaming Heron says, sounds like a bit of a clusterfuck, if I'm being honest. Although he didn't put the bad word in there, I did. Mary says they're moving into a new building. You can see unfinished offices in the background of their videos. Okay, all right, okay. So anyway, so I emailed back and I said, first of all, kind of weird that you speak to me, you email me conversationally, but then you don't actually give me a name. It's the D&D Creator Relations Team. That's creepy, in my opinion. It's creepy. So anyway, not to go into like tons and tons of detail, but effectively, I had written back and said, so wait a second, is my contact over at this company in trouble because they gave me the digital code? Because the way it's written sounds, thanks for making us aware of this, or thanks for letting us know about this, exclamation point. So I was like, but this still doesn't answer the question about how do some outlets have this already, but I don't. And as I pointed out last night, the difference between getting videos out there, like I tend to pride myself on being pretty fast at getting videos out for Dungeons and Dragons releases, at least first looks. I normally will have that video up and out there the day it arrives. So the difference between sharing a video on that first day and 3 days later is thousands of views. Now imagine what it's going to be like to have videos coming out weeks after other outlets have shared videos. It's ridiculous. So as I pointed out on last night's show, even though this is not a Dungeons and Dragons channel, and I believe that I share very honest, upfront opinions of Wizards of the Coast releases, which I figure is the problem here. And I know this is not a huge outlet or anything like that, but those D&D videos bring in a lot of viewers and accounts for a good chunk of the revenue from YouTube. So if they're going to start screwing around like this, and I even shared this in the email, said if there's suddenly, okay, so all right, let me get that out of the way and then I'll wrap this up. See, I told you it'd be 45 minutes before we peaked at this, and we're now almost an hour into the show. Anyway, so I had pointed out, I said, well, you know, if there are suddenly two different like listings of outlets, something coming from a company that prides itself, oh, everyone's welcome at the table and diversity and everything else. And I get it. I don't expect to get a review copy at the same time as like IGN does, although I think it's ridiculous. IGN reviews reviews tabletop games like Polygon, Forbes. Yeah, okay. Forbes is now a game website. But I don't expect to get review copies when they get review copies. But I do expect to get review copies when every other outlet of about the same, reputation as mine gets theirs. So anyway, so I get this email back just before I go live, and it's saying, well, no, that person over at that PR company, they're not in trouble. We just want to make sure that we only generate one code for each reviewer, and thanks for letting us know. And it's sort of like, okay, so you weren't even going to generate a review code for me yet? And the way they point, because these PR people aren't the brightest bulbs on the string. They tend to give away a lot more information than they should. So essentially, what this person, and they did give me a name, tells me is that if I'm reading between the lines, there are now 2 levels of outlets. And it seems like one level of outlet is still going to be handled by this PR company. And then everybody else will be handled by this team. So, anyway, as I pointed out, it's sort of like, well, you're going to send out an email in the next few days, or in the coming days, I guess I should say. And what this email is going to ask is, A, do I want a copy of the Planescape slipcase set? And it's going to confirm my mailing address. So that means we're looking at this maybe arrives on release day. Fuck that. Whatever. It's like, give me a break. And of course, I'm sure it's the people who sit there and put Wizards of the Coast balls in their mouth and then gargle. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to get this out to you right away, because the shit that we sell most of the time, the trash that we sell, like, oh, I don't know. What the hell was the one, with the fucking space and shit that was ridiculously bad? Spelljammer? They were like, oh, this is the greatest Dungeons and Dragons setting ever. Those people are getting stuff. So whatever. So I let them know in the email that since it seems that Wizards of the Coast has reevaluated my standing with them, that I'm going to have to reevaluate my my thought process about Wizards of the Coast. So there you go. Madman says, seems like a bit of failure to communicate on their part. And yes, how have other outlets received copies already if they just got back into the office, new building or not? Right. And I even said in the email, it almost feels like some folks at Wizards of the Coast don't want me reviewing their stuff anymore. And that's fine, but it seems like nobody's got the stones there to tell me this. And I mentioned this yesterday. A lot of these PR people, a lot of these marketing kids that they bring in who know nothing about actual marketing. They know about social networking, but they don't understand marketing. Are clueless. And then they've all been raised to be little babies who, God forbid, they receive any sort of criticism at all or receive any sort of bad news, because then it's like, oh my God, I gotta go. I need to be in my safe space. Know what I mean, jelly beans? Scott says, make a thumbnail with a wacky face for all your D&D videos. Oh, don't even give me with those fucking thumbnails. They all look the same. And I've said it, that I don't even like putting my mug out there like on the thumbnails for these videos, but I have been told that I really do need to do that. So I'm like, oh, fine, I'll put a little circle in the corner. So Fleming Hearn says, this generation, Jeff, geez. Yeah, I don't get it. I do not. And then people talk about like transhumanism, how we're going to go out into the vastness of space with these ass clowns. No, that is never going to happen. We won't even colonize the fucking moon. Man, it sounds to me like another developer that can't handle criticism because then they have to put more work into what they create in order to produce actual good content. Kevin says I could join the debate about whether open mouth or closed mouth expressions get more views. Oh, I guarantee there is a debate. Kevin's not making this up. I have not encountered it, but I'm sure it's there. Yes. Oh, it drives me nuts. It drives me so nuts to see all of these different people. And there are people out there older than me who are content creators who do the stupid ass, look at me, I'm a fucking moron face. You would think I'm in a bad mood, but I'm not. I'm not at all. Anyway, we are past the hour mark. We have got to do our first look at High Treason. So we're going to get to that in just a moment. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission, and I'll head off to my safe space for a few minutes.
In the dull and commonplace occurrences of day-to-day living, one thing stands out as a completely unique experience. Colt 45 malt liquor.
It's my new drinking fountain. Wilkins Instant Coffee here and water here.
I'll take water.
Next.
How much can the human mind stand? Do you?
How did that beer not get spilled is what Kevin R. Smith is asking. How did that malt liquor not get spilled? I thought that was a very bizarre Colt 45 commercial because, to be honest, I didn't realize that there were Colt 45 commercials from the 1960s. Very, very strange. And you got a twofer on your Halloween spooky drive-in theater things. And Yes, yes. One last thing I do want to add. The thing that bothers me about like the Wizards of the Coast kind of stuff is that, I put a lot of work into this. I don't just show up out of nowhere and then turn the camera on and just start talking. A lot of work goes into this. A lot of energy goes into this. A lot of money goes into this. And then, yeah, and granted, I get it. I say it all the time. I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea. That's okay. But then to have companies disrespect me like that and essentially lie to me, as the madman agrees with, that it's like, okay, who are they bullshitting here? Oh, well, we just got back into the office, and but how do all these other outlets have their review copies? Were you not out of the office for them? That's what irritates me. It bugs me because it's like, well, they're just going to treat me like any other asshole out there. And it's like, well, okay, whatever. Then I will treat you like any other assholes at some company I don't really care about. Scott B. Smith says their safe space was the concession stand. All righty then. So tonight we are going to dive on in and take a first look at High Treason, the Trial of Louis Riel from Victory Point Games, which of course is a division of Tabletop Tycoon. That's why you're seeing that web address, because there is no longer a victorypointgames.com. This is designed by Alex Berry with art and graphic design provided by Tim Allen. Excuse me, I burped there for a second. Graphic design provided by Tim. Oh my God, I'm having a stroke. No, I'm kidding. I told you I'm not mad. Anyway, art and graphic design is provided by Tim Allen and Mercedes Palacios. The game is for 2 players, ages 14 and up, plays in around 45 minutes, normally carries an MSRP of $50. Should mention right now, if you order from Tabletop Tycoon, you can get it for $40. All that said, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got High Treason. Before we jump in, do want to mention the fine folks over at Tabletop Tycoon were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the gaming gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this coverage with you. These days, it's important that you know that. We're also going to dive on in and take a look at the 3rd edition here. And I've never seen the 1st or 2nd edition. I see we've got Alan Emmerich getting credit for development on this game. Yes, if you go way back with the gaming gang, you know that we covered loads and loads of Victory Point game releases. And Alan Emmerich, I consider a good friend in the industry, although we would butt heads. Not a lot, but we would butt heads from time to time, especially when I'd give a Victory Point game release a less than stellar review. So, all right. Let's dive on in. It is July 1885, and in the 5 fateful days of his trial for high treason, Louis Riel experiences his fate. The government has changed the venue to their advantage and appointed the best lawyers to settle the trial quickly and safely. But Louis Riel's defense team portray him as insane to get him acquitted. High Treason, the Trial of Louis Riel, is a card-driven 2-player game. One player takes the role of the prosecution and the other takes the role of defense. Both are trying to influence the tragic fate of the defendant over the whole trial. They select the jury, question witnesses, sway their thinking, and make closing arguments that decide the fate of not only one man, but also of Canada. jump on in here. So we got our Tabletop Tycoon catalog, got our rule book. We have large size cards. Got some baggies, a couple of punch boards, and it looks like we've got a game board as well. So first thing we'll take a look at here is going to be the rule book. So I was trying to remember the name of the Mary Surratt trial game. It's Unforgiven. It is an excellent courtroom game. So you know what we're going to do? Let me jump up. I am going to zoom in a bit because it looks like everything is relatively small. All right. So let's see if the autofocus behaves tonight. Historic background. Western expansion in Canada took a different course than in the United States. Conflict from Western migration in the U.S. took place between the mainly white settlers, united by a common language, and the Native Americans. General Wolfe united Canada by force of arms with the battle on the Abraham Plain. However, Canada remained divided by language. The Western migration was led by predominantly French Catholic fur traders and trappers who married the Aborigines and produced a new human race and culture, the Métis. Once again, I know I'm not pronouncing that correctly. When the Canadian government made treaties with the Native Americans, the Métis, being neither whites nor natives, did not receive comparable treatment. The Métis wanted to protect their rights from the remote British Protestant government in eastern Canada. In 1869, resentment turned into rebellion in Manitoba's Red River Valley. Louis Riel led the rebellion and forced the government to compromise, resulting in the Manitoba Act. Due to his participation in the rebellion and the execution of the Irish Protestant Thomas Scott, Riel himself was forced to flee to the United States. It's actually Riel. Why did I say Riel? While there, Riel obtained American citizenship. When tensions arose between the Métis and the government further west in Saskatchewan, the Métis recalled their former savior from exile to lead them again. Louis Riel and Gabriel Dumont, a local Métis leader, initially worked toward a peaceful solution for their grievances. However, this movement eventually turned into the Northwest Rebellion. The conservative government in Ottawa rallied an army to quell the rebellion and eventually succeeded at the Battle of Badasch, which took place May 2nd to the 12th, 1885. Gabriel Dumont fled to the U.S. Louis Riel was tried and hanged for high treason. There are many reasons why Riel's first rebellion was successful and why his second failed. The western expansion of the railway allowed the federal government to rapidly deploy superior forces to the area. Riel himself embraced unorthodox religious beliefs that alienated the Roman Catholic Church and its devout followers, who had been key to his first rebellion's success. Now you can enter the courtroom yourself during those 5 fateful days in July of 1885, when the future of a country hung in the balance, and Louis Riel, the defendant, was hanged in the aftermath. So we've got our components. We have trait markers. So we've got occupations, government worker, merchants, farmers, 18 language, French and English, and 18 religion, Catholic and Protestant, sway markers, game board trackers, juror cards, 45 trial cards as well. So this is the breakdown of the board. It looks like. It's like here we've got our jurors. Taking a guess. Yep, they are. They're the juror cards, which look a little similar to the juror cards that we had in Lawyer Up. Remember, they also had kind of these little tokens that you would move to like sway them in their opinion. That's kind of wild. So the game is played in 5 phases, each of which reflects a specific part of the trial. Phase 1, jury selection. Phase 2, trial in chief. Phase 3, trial in chief part 2. Phase 4, summation, closing arguments. And phase 5, jury deliberation and judgment. So we have card play. Says during phase 1 jury selection, you play cards from your hand and use the events highlighted in yellow on the juror cards. Most events require you to reveal a certain number of markers for a given trait. To reveal a trait marker, flip it over to the front so both players can see it. You may also choose a trait marker that has been previously revealed. So you're going to have jurors dismissed. Phase 2, the trial in chief, part 1. Both the prosecution and defense play cards to swear witnesses to certain statements in order to influence and consolidate the jury's opinion in their favor. Furthermore, evidence must be produced for the guilt or for the insanity of the accused. So we have action points on those cards. So the actions: sway a juror, argue one aspect, and argue one aspect in depth. So then we have the implement trial in chief events. So we have attorney cards. This is looking pretty interesting. Then phase 4, summation, your closing arguments. So you're going to play cards for action points. Or I'm sorry, I should say, looks like you're going to spend action points. Then we have jury deliberation and judgment. And we get an example of play. And then designer notes. Cool. So those are the rules. Let's take a look at the punch boards. We'll take a look at the game board, and then we'll finish up by taking a peek at the dice. I think they showed sway tokens. And they are dual-sided. So we have these are our religion tokens, these are our language tokens here. So it looks like the language tokens might be secret. They're revealed as you play. Not sure what these are. Maybe those are evidence cards. And I will say that these tokens are cut really nicely because gotta make sure I don't touch them so they don't pop out. All right, so we got that, at least so they don't pop out until I'm ready to take them out. Okay, so here's the game board. So we have evidence of guilt, evidence of insanity. We have religion traits, so Protestant and Catholic, language traits, English and French. Oh, those were the occupations. That's what that was. The occupation traits, farmer, merchant, and government worker. And then we're going to take those jury cards and put them down here. So there we've got that. I would take a guess that maybe we play our discarded cards or our activated cards here or here. Probably here. Looks about the right size. So that is the game board. Now let's take a peek at the cards. I always really dig historical board games on topics that I know absolutely nothing about. So, and these have a linen finish. They're not real thick. Okay, so here are the attorneys. Here's our defendants. Okay, so those are prosecution attorneys. These are defense attorneys. Yep. Okay. So we get the individuals. And I will point out the text on these cards is pretty damn small again. Yeah, I would have, to be honest, I would have to bust out reading glasses in order to play this. And I think it's another case where we were taking a look at Ottoman Sunset, and the text was really, really small, about the same size here. And it seems as if this is another situation where they're using the flavor text and it's taking up too much space. It's taking far too much space. You didn't have that flavor text, and I get it. I like flavor text on cards because it tells us about the historical person or event, whatever. But when it comes to being, comes to affecting the playability of a game, then I'd rather have this information in the rule book under the designer notes or something like that. So also something to point out is that games like this tend to appeal to older gamers. So war gamers and historical gamers tend to be older and need to use reading glasses. So here we've got our defense attorneys. And then we've got our defendant. Let's see what else we've got here. Prosecution witness, prosecution evidence. Looks like these are all going to be prosecution cards. Defense cards. No, just one. More prosecution witnesses. And yes, I see that these jurors, I should say. No, I believe these are going to be the jurors. So, of course, there's only one deck of cards. So you are going to shuffle this up. So the defense and the prosecution cards are going to be mixed together. So I wonder if we're looking at, like most card-driven games, if, say, you're the prosecution and you've got a defense witness card, and this is good for 3 actions. If you play this to get those 3 actions, does something resolve itself for the defense and vice versa, right? If you're a defense and you have to play a prosecution card, so as an example here, this is 2 actions. What happens? Kind of funny that, see now, here I can make these cards out a little bit easier, although it seems to be the same font size. That's kind of strange. But I have to say, outside of being a little difficult to make out, I mean, there's no way I could read the flavor text from here on these cards. Flaming Heron says, I'm watching on a phone, it's even smaller. And as Kevin points out, I was even going to say this. I was just about to say that these are large cards. So just think, I don't want to harp on this, but just think, if this section was gone, how much you could spread that out and really make this easy to read. So we've kind of seen, at least with the first 2 of the Victory Point game titles from Tabletop Tycoon, we've kind of seen a little bit of a graphic design decision that I disagree with on both games. All right, so this is the jury. So these look like they're all going to be just the same. Yep, you're just going to put these out for your 12 jurors there, or however many jurors it indicates for you to set up. Then here, this looks like this is a set of player aid cards. I was just kind of looking at it because I was like, well, wait a second, hang on. Because I saw round 5 on this, and then I'm looking on the side here, right? Because I see this says round 5. I'm assuming we're going to see the round there. It was over here. So we have 2 and 3. Where's our round 1? There we go. So each player is going to get these 4 cards. Wait a second. I thought there were 5 here. I think these are shared. Nope. I had that wrong. It's just one set. One set of these. And one set of these. Kind of wild. Looks like there's quite a bit going on with this game too, which I'm happy to see. All right, so we've got the various decks of cards. The baggie there. Well, actually, you know what? I'll put the game board in first, as well as... All right, autofocus. Behave. Got the cards there, as well as our rule book. And that is what we find when we take everything from High Treason, the Trial of Louis Riel, outside the box. So once again, this is from Victory Point Games, which is a division of Tabletop Tycoon. It is available now. This game is for 2 players, ages 14 and up, plays in around 45 minutes, and normally carries an MSRP of $50. You can currently get it over at the Tabletop Tycoon website for $50. And I will have a review of High Treason in the very near future. Jack Hanks is with us in chat, asking a question I just answered. I also want to mention that NAC War Games sent me The Other Side of the Hill, which is coming to Kickstarter. So this is a pre-production version of this. We are going to be taking a look at this. They asked me to take a look at this game, and I gotta say, it looks interesting because the players take on the roles of officers in the German High Command during World War II. So they've each got their own agenda that they are looking to advance. So it is the rise and fall of German generals inspired by the work of B.H. Liddell Hart. So show you the back. See, it says test copy. So this just arrived from Spain today. So we will probably take a look at this a week from, well, I haven't decided yet. I haven't decided if I'm going to take next week off or not. I will let you know tomorrow. But this is what we're going to take a peek inside for the next War Game Wednesday. So stay tuned. And then, of course, I will have a Kickstarter preview video of it as well. So tomorrow, I am going to crack open Hardmaster from Columbia Games and take a peek inside here. This is the role-playing game system that actually ties into Harn and Harn World and Harn Decks. So I am very interested in checking that out. I don't know. We might actually have Grant from Columbia Games pop on in once again for chat. We shall see. I have informed him that it is going to be featured on tomorrow's show. And I know Grant likes to show up for videos featuring stuff from his company. Alrighty, that is it for this time out. If you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. It'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evenings right here on YouTube. It'll also tell you when I upload other videos, such as my recent review of Vaesen, A Wicked Secret, and Other Mysteries from Free League Publishing. I'll also tell you all month long when I have a new episode of the Spooktacular 2023 arrive at midnight Chicago time every night this month. Of course, I know a lot of you out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Thank you very much for taking time out of your busy lives to watch any of the videos here on the channel. But those of you who do watch live, thank you kindly. And if you watch live and take part in chat, tip of the cap, because not only do you keep me company, you keep each other company when I'm doing a first look at a board game or paging through a role-playing game book. So thank you kindly for that. Alrighty, I'll be back tomorrow. Here's hoping you get to enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and I certainly hope all of you out there get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.